Hey, this is your bestie in grief, Ashley. Welcome to the Calm Sphere podcast, your official go-to safe space where we talk about grief, healing, mental health, faith, and nervous system support in a way that feels honest, gentle, and most importantly, human. You don't have to have it all together when you're here. You just have to show up, and I'm really glad you chose to do so today. All right, so if you have been walking through the grief protocol with me, welcome back. We are on step 4 now. We are more than halfway done. And I just want to say, if you have made it this far in the series, I am genuinely proud of you. We have done a lot of work together. We came home to our bodies. We learned to feel instead of run from our feelings. We started to quiet the spiral in our minds. And now we are here. Step 4, find your words. If you're brand new to the show though, welcome, but I would love for you to go back and start at episode 5, which is called the intro to the grief protocol. It will give you the full picture of everything we are doing and why each step builds on the last. For maximum benefits, I definitely encourage you to start from there because it should be done step by step. All right. So today we are going into something that I think is going to feel like a big exhale for a lot of you, a big ooh-sah, because this step is about giving your grief a voice. And so many of us have been carrying our grief in silence for a really long time. I'm going to hit you with a hard truth off the bat. Grief that has no words gets heavier over time, not lighter. The longer we keep it locked up inside with no way out, the more it presses into everything else in our lives. It will leak into our relationships. It shows up in our bodies. It affects how we sleep and how we eat and how we love people. But when grief finds a voice, something shifts inside of us, and it's not all at once and not dramatically, but something does shift. And today I want to help you find that voice. Let me share an experience with you really quick because I think a lot of people are ashamed to admit this. When I was in the middle of my grief, if someone had asked me how I was feeling, I genuinely didn't know what to say. And it wasn't because I was fine. It was because the emotions were so big and so tangled and so overwhelming that I didn't have a single word for any of them. Everything felt wrong. Literally, when my fiance would ask me what was wrong, I would always tell him everything. Everything is wrong. That was it. That was the whole sentence. Everything felt wrong, and I did not know how to say anything beyond that. And what I didn't understand at the time is that this is completely normal. There's actually a word for it. It's called alexithymia. It means difficulty identifying and describing your own emotions, and grief can cause this in people who have never experienced it before. If you haven't been through a deep loss, you probably don't have the words for what you are feeling. The feelings are too big for words. So we go quiet, or we say we are fine even when we're not, or we say, I don't know, when someone asks us how we're doing. And then people around us say things like, let me know if you need anything, or I'm here if you want to talk. We don't usually reach out to those people. We don't call them. And it's not because we don't need anything. It's because we don't know how to say what we need. The words are not there yet. So if you have ever felt like you could not explain your grief to anyone around you, I want you to know that it is not a you problem. That is just what grief does. It is so much bigger than language. And the work of this step is learning slowly and gently how to find the words anyway. For a long time, I kept my grief mostly inside. I was very good at masking. I had been doing it my whole life, making it look like I was okay, even when I felt like I was falling apart on the inside. But there were 2 cracks in that mask that eventually let the light in. The first one was content creation. I have been posting on social media for a very long time, and content creation has always been a sort of outlet for me, but it was one that I never imagined would help me through my grief. I started posting on social media about my grief, about losing my sister, about what sibling loss actually felt like, and something I did not expect happened. People started responding. People I had never met, people who had lost a brother or a sister and felt completely alone in it. And every time someone would say, "Me too," or "Thank you for saying that," or "I thought I was the only one," something inside of me got a little less heavy. I felt less alone, and feeling less alone is one of the most powerful things that can happen in grief, because grief tells you that nobody understands, that you are the only one who has ever felt this way. And connection with people punches a hole in that lie every single time. The second crack in that mask was prayer. And at first, prayer for me didn't look holy or beautiful. It looked like me rambling at God, just words tumbling out of my mouth in no particular order, feelings that had no names yet. I was not asking for anything specific. I was just letting it out in the direction of someone I was starting to believe could hold all of that. And little by little, something changed. The Holy Spirit started helping me find those words. What started as rambling started becoming sentences, and those sentences started becoming requests. I asked God to help me understand what I was feeling. I begged him to show me what I was supposed to do with all this pain. And I started telling him something that terrified me to say out loud at first: use me. This pain cannot be for nothing. God, use me. That prayer right there was the beginning of everything you are listening to right now. Okay, I want to explain something really simply because I think it matters a lot. When we keep grief inside, it does not go anywhere. It just sits and it grows and it gets heavier. Think about a shaken soda bottle. All that pressure building up inside with nowhere to go. You can hold the cap on for a while, but eventually something is going to give. When grief has no outlet, that pressure comes out in other ways. Anger that seems to come out of nowhere, in numbness, self-sabotaging, in snapping at the people you love the most, isolating, making choices that do not reflect who you actually are. But when grief gets to come out, when it gets a voice, that pressure releases. Not all at once, not forever, but enough to breathe and enough to move, enough to have that power to take the next step. There is also something really important that happens in the brain when we find words for our feelings. Scientists call it affect labeling. It basically means that when we name an emotion, the part of our brain that is in panic mode starts to calm down. Just naming it, just saying out loud, I am having the thought of hopelessness right now. I am feeling like I'm angry right now. I feel guilty for wanting to get better. Just saying the word starts to regulate the nervous system. Language is not just how we communicate to other people. It is how we make sense of our inner world, of our own experience. And grief without language, it's just chaos. And when we start to find the words, we start to find the edges of the thing. And when something has edges, it feels less like it is everywhere all at once, like just like a blob, like a big old splatter of grief in your brain. Real quick, before we keep going, I want to tell you about something that has genuinely helped me through this grief journey. Grief is exhausting, right? We all know that. But when your digestion is off, your mood goes with it. I started using sea moss from A Mama Who Cares because your gut is literally your second brain. And it changed my gut, my mood, my sanity. It is also cleared by the Ministry of Agriculture, so there's no preservatives, no junk. It's just 92 minerals your nervous system is probably begging for. They even have real fruit flavors, and it is just one small thing that helped me feel human again. You can use my code Ashley15 for money off. The link is in the show notes. All right, let's get back into it. Speaking about things that have helped me through my grief journey, let me tell you about journaling. And before you tune out, wait, because you may think journaling is not for you, I want to say this. Journaling does not have to be pretty. It can be scribble, scrabble. It does not have to make sense. It does not have to be something that you read back later with a warm cup of tea, feeling proud of yourself. It can be messy, full of anger. You can be writing through tears. It can be one word repeated over and over on a page. None of that matters. What really matters is that you got it out of your body and onto something outside of you, because there is something that happens when you put a pen to paper or your fingers to a keyboard that does not happen when you just think things or when you're having a conversation with someone else. Your brain starts to organize itself like a file cabinet that has been knocked over. All the papers are scattered everywhere, and writing is the act of picking them up one by one and putting them in the right folder. I have a journal where I write letters to my sister, not because she can read them, obviously, but because I still have things to say to her. I need somewhere to say them. I tell her about my kids. I tell her about the hard days or the moments where I feel her near. And sometimes I just ask her the questions I never got to ask her when she was here. And I have another journal, one that I write in for my kids, about what's happening in my life right now, about who their aunt was, about the things I want them to know about her because they never got to meet her. And that journal is one of the most important things I have ever created because it is a way of keeping her alive for them. And it's a way of making sure they grow up knowing her name and her laugh and the way that she loved and all these beautiful, crazy memories we had together. You don't have to write letters. You don't have to have any format at all. That was just a few ideas. You can just open a blank page and write whatever is true right now. But I want you to try, because grief on a page is grief that is moving, and grief that is moving is grief that is healing. So I want to share about the people who helped me find my words, because I think sometimes we're waiting for permission to let someone in, and I want to give you that permission today. The first person who truly saw me fall apart was my fiance. Not because I chose to show him, but because when you live with someone, you can't hide forever. The mask comes off eventually, and one day he just saw me. He really saw me broken and raw and not okay. And here's what he did not do. He did not tell me to move on. He did not say I was being too emotional. He did not make me feel like a burden for the weight I was carrying. He leaned in, even when I was pushing him away, even when my grief was making me act in ways that were not fair to him. He held on tighter. That is what safe love looks like. Not love that only shows up when you are easy to love. That healthy, safe love leans in when you are hard to love. Another person is my cousin, Alexa. She has held me throughout my darkest moments. She has sat with me. She has uplifted me in ways I have never experienced with anyone else. She has never judged me, never pushed me away. She just stayed. And I want to ask you something right now. Who is your person? Who is the one person in your life that has never made you feel judged for your grief? Maybe it's one person, maybe it's more than one. And if you can't think of anyone right now, I want you to know that we're going to talk about that in step 5 of the protocol, because letting love in is its own whole episode. But for now, I want to say this. Letting someone see you in your grief is not weakness. It is one of the bravest things you can do, and the right person will not run from what they see. They will stay. After being on your grief journey for a while, we start to look back and think, like, what would I have wanted people to say to me? And I think A lot of grieving people feel this, but they don't say it out loud. There's a gap between what people say to us in grief and what we actually need to hear. People said things to me like, let me know if you need anything, or I'm here if you want to talk. And I know those words came from love. I know the people who said them genuinely meant them. But here's the thing about grief. We don't always know what we need. And even when we do, asking for it feels impossible. What I actually needed was for someone to just do something. To show up with a meal without being asked, to help tidy the house, to take my kids for a few hours so I could just breathe, to ask me about my sister, to say, hey, tell me about your sister, tell me a memory, tell me something that she loved. That last one is the one I want to stay on for a second, because I think the question that would have helped me feel most heard was this simple. Can you tell me something about her? Not how are you holding up, not are you doing okay, just can you tell me something about her? Because what that question says is, I want to know her too. I'm not afraid of her name. I'm not going to change the subject when you bring her up. I want to hear about who she was. The deepest fear of a grieving person is that the world is going to forget their person. And that question directly addresses that fear. It says, your person matters. Tell me about them. And the statements I wish I had heard more, things like, it's okay to fall apart. Your sister died, and it makes complete sense that you cannot find happiness right now. You do not have to hold it together. I will sit here with you while you feel it. Those words would have changed something in me, and I want them to change something in you right now. It is okay to fall apart. You do not have to explain your grief or defend it or apologize for it. And if someone in your life has made you feel like you should be further along by now, I want you to hear me say this clearly. They are wrong. Let's pause here for just a second before we go into the second half. If the calm sphere has been a space where you have felt a little less alone in your grief, I want to ask you to do one thing right now. Follow the podcast. That's it. Just hit follow wherever you are listening so you never miss the next step of the protocol. It takes 2 seconds and it means everything for me. And if this episode or any episode has given you a moment where you thought, wow, I have never thought about it that way before, please leave a 5-star review. Those reviews help other women who are hurting right now find this space. And that is exactly why I am here. I also have an email community where I share extra tools and resources that do not always make it into the episodes. The link to join is in the show notes, and I would love to have you there. And speaking of show notes, this episode comes with a free downloadable guide called Find Your Words. It has journaling prompts, ways to express your grief, and tools for letting people in. You can save it to your phone, you can print it, just make sure you use it. Go ahead and grab it in the show notes. And all right, let's keep going, because the second half of this episode is where we get really practical. Okay, so let's get into how we actually find our words. How do you find words for something that feels too big for language? Here are the ways that have worked for me and for a lot of people I have connected with through this grief journey. The first way is writing. I already talked about journaling, but I want to go a little deeper. There are so many ways to write your grief, and not all of them look like a diary entry. You can write a letter to the person you lost. Say everything you never got to say. Ask the questions you never got answers to. Tell them about your life right now. You do not have to send it anywhere. You just have to write it. You can write a letter to yourself from 6 months ago. What would you tell that version of yourself? What do you know now that she needed to hear then? You can write 1 sentence a day, just one. How do I feel today? And answer it honestly. You do not have to write a paragraph. 1 true sentence is enough. You can write to your kids or to someone you love about the person you lost. Keeping their memory alive in writing is one of the most healing things I have ever done. The second way is talking. This one is harder for a lot of us. I know it was very hard for me, especially If you're like me and you learned early that emotions were supposed to stay inside, but talking about grief is one of the most powerful things you can do. Find one person, just one, someone who has shown you they are safe, and tell them something true about how you are feeling. It does not have to be the whole story. It can be one small piece. And if there's no one in your life who feels safe right now, a therapist, a grief support group, or even this podcast community can be a starting point. You do not have to do this alone, and finding the right person to hold your words is part of the work. The third way is creating. This one surprised me when I discovered it, but for some people, grief finds its voice not in words at all, but in something made. Music, art, photography, cooking a meal that reminds you of them. I like to do this, or me and my family like to do this. Creating something in their honor, planting something that grows, building something they would have loved. I found my voice through content creation, through sharing my story online, through this podcast, and through deciding that my grief was going to help someone else feel less alone. And that creative outlet has been very healing in my entire journey. You do not have to start a podcast, but what is something you could create that honors the person you lost and gives your grief somewhere to go? The fourth way is praying. Even if you do not know what to say, even if all you have is tears and no actual words, or if you're angry at God and your prayer sounds like you yelling into the sky, that counts. That is a prayer. God does not need you to be eloquent. He does not need you to have it together. He just needs you to come to Him. And when you come without words, the Holy Spirit intercedes for you. Romans 8:26 says, "In like manner, the Spirit also joins in with help for our weakness. For the problem is that we do not know what we should pray for as we need to, but the Spirit itself pleads for us with unuttered groanings." Sometimes we are so overwhelmed by a problem that we do not even know how to pray about it, but that doesn't prevent God from hearing and knowing our distress. God already knew that grief would take us to a place beyond language, and He made a way for us to still be heard, even there when we have no words. So if you feel like that, like you just don't know what to say, you don't have to have the right words. Just show up, just be there. That is enough for God. Okay, I want to address something before we close out this episode, because I think it is sitting in the back of a lot of people's minds right now. Grief comes with so much shame, and that shame is one of the biggest reasons why we stay quiet. When you're grieving, you might feel fatigue that makes it hard to get out of bed, brain fog that makes you forget things, hopelessness, worthlessness, a pull toward isolation that feels like the only way to survive is to be alone. And all of those things can make you feel like an outcast, like you are too much for the people around you. Like if they really saw how you were doing, they would pull away. So you put that mask on. You say you're fine. You cancel the plans. You stop answering the texts, and you grieve alone in the quiet of a house that feels too big without your person in the world. I want to say something directly to that part of you. You are not too much. Your grief is not a burden that the right people cannot handle, and isolation is not protection. It feels like protection, but it is actually doing the thing that keeps the grief frozen in place. Grief needs witnesses. It needs to be seen and heard and held by another person, not because they can fix it, but because being seen in your pain is one of the most fundamentally human things there is. It is how we were designed to heal and grow in relationship, in connection, in community. You do not have to tell everyone. You don't have to post it on the internet or announce it at a family dinner, but find one person. Tell them one true thing. Let them see one real piece of your grief. That is how it starts. One person, one sentence, one moment of being truly seen. And if you are not ready for that yet, that is okay too. Start with the journal. Start with the prayer. Start with writing a letter to your person that no one else will ever read. Just get the words out somewhere. Because remember, words in motion is grief in motion. And grief in motion is grief that is healing. You have been carrying your grief in silence for long enough. Not because you are weak, but because you did not have the words yet. And because nobody around you made it easy enough or safe enough to let it out. Today, I want to give you permission. Permission to say the things you have been holding. Permission to write the letter you have been afraid to write. Permission to tell the person who is safe in your life that you are not okay and you need them to just be there. You do not have to explain everything. You don't have to make it make sense. You just have to start one word, one sentence, one true thing. And for the person you lost, the one whose name you are afraid to say too much because you do not want to make people uncomfortable, say it. Say it out loud. Say it in your journal. Say it in your prayers. Keep their name alive in the world because they were here and they were real and they mattered and they deserve to be remembered. Your grief has a voice and it is waiting for you to use it. In the next episode, we are going into step 5 of the grief protocol, let love in. We have talked about finding your words and starting to express your grief. Now we go one step further. We talk about what it actually looks like to let people into your healing, how to ask for what you need, how to identify the safe people in your life, and how to rebuild connection after grief has told you for so long that you are better off alone. If you have been isolating, if you have been pushing people away, if you have been telling everyone you are fine when you are not, that episode is for you. If something here helped, that means your nervous system felt a little safety today. Follow the CalmSphere podcast. Leave a 5-star review if you love this episode and tell me what you're taking with you. Remember, by listening, you are taking one step toward the life you deserve. I'll meet you right here next time.